What's going on, guys? Bladezilla here, and today I got a real spectacular one for you. This is the Shirogorov F95NL Custom Division. And these guys have only been out at the time of filming this, and right now I'm filming this end of November 2023, early December 2023. So you should be seeing this probably in December, just by the time I produce it and whatnot. Pretty cool knife, and I think there's only at this time about 15 of them out in the wild. So really cool design, really cool knife, and we're going to be talking about this today. I was lucky enough to get my grubby mitts on one, and kind of wanted to show you it before I actually throw it up on the site here. So we are going to get into that. As always, follow me on Instagram, Bladezilla, or follow the store on Shopify. There we go, bladezilla.ca. Bunch of knives listed up. Just put up a custom division turtle, some RJ Martins, etc. Lots of cool stuff. Bladezilla.ca. I always get asked for that, and figure I don't mention it enough, but there you go. So let's take a look at this and start doing the usual. Grab a cup of coffee, or fill up your beer, or whatever you're going to do, and we're going to talk about a cool knife, because I think this one is pretty awesome. So let's see what we got here. Overall length 8 3/4, and remember, this is my tape measure. It's could be wrong. 8 3/4 ish, maybe a little under. Blade length should be 95 mils, but I'm looking at about 4 inches, a little under. Handle length of 4 3/4, and just a good overall size in terms of the weight, because this is one that a lot of people don't really realize. It's actually a very light knife compared to some of the others, which we'll go through. So I'm going to do, I normally forget this actually lately, so I'm going to weigh this guy and show you some of the weights. And kind of get started on this side of things, because like I said, lately I've been forgetting that, and it's very important for a knife of this level. So here we go. Any guesses? It's sub 4 ounces. It has to be 3.8 ounces. Let's make sure that's zeroed. Okay, good. 3.8. Now, compared to an F95T custom division, it feels heavier in hand. 4.3. So right there you've got 0.8 ounces. Is that right? No, 0.5. What did I say it was? 3.7? 3.8? So pretty considerable gap between the two, and it's the first thing I noticed when picking this guy up compared to my turtle, was just how light it was. And if we look at the kind of modern custom division F95s, they've really gone narrow. Thin, narrow, light, high attention to detail. I've had, I don't know if I've actually done an F95T custom division video. I've compared it with mine for, geez, I don't know, maybe 30 videos now. Seem to use it a lot. It's one of my favorite knives. And I love it. But this one feels fatter. A little chonkier. It's like we're coming up on Christmas season, and they're getting your hands used to feeling things a little bigger. That's what she said. Obviously, I'm kidding. And that's because of this scale. So this inlay, it sticks out, and I don't know if you can see that, but it definitely sticks out compared to the norm. Pretty cool. So this particular knife, I think, is number 13 of 50, so lucky number 13. Pretty cool. And let's take a look here. Ooh, in hand, very good. Very typical of an F95 in terms of fit, finish, feel. Everything's there. It's rock solid. But the custom divisions kind of take things up one more notch in terms of the overall quality, I would say. And as you can kind of see, the milling all on top of this inlay, which is, I believe, carbo tie, as they say, is just out of this world. It's done so well. And as I move it around with the light, you should see kind of peaks and valleys form. But I assure you, it's all the same level in reality. It's really special, really done well. The one thing that I'll say that they really borrowed from, I'd say, the magnetic. And if you guys are unfamiliar with the magnetic, it is the Hattie magnetic custom division knife. They, on the front scale of that, they made it very concave. And they followed that into this F95, because the first thing I noticed when I put it in my hand was how my fingers fall right into the track. Apparently I've got something stuck on there. Great. That's great, right in the middle of a video. But my fingers fall right into here, and it's concave. So you definitely find it really, really quickly, and you notice it right away. And being that it's an inlay, and it's on top of the actual scale, it feels thicker in hand compared to both the magnetic and the F95T, which I will do some comparisons, but they are identical in terms of width. If it wants to focus, kind of an important time to focus, guys. Come on now. Identical, width-wise, blade-wise, they are the same. But in hand, you can just see, like, just look at how those inlays pop out just like 1.5 mil. It just makes it feel thicker in hand. So, something to consider when looking at. There's also a host of improvements comparing the two of these, and some should be visible right away, like right on the hardware itself. Like, what are we seeing there, guys? It's a lot more milling, and they've taken it up a notch. And I really appreciate it. Like the new Astrum as well. They're doing kind of this extra machine work. They might call it, what, like 3D milled hardware or something. It's just cool because it just contours to the knife so well in hand, and just that extra level of detail is kind of the first thing that I notice. It's really, really well done. We still have the standard, you know, back side of this in terms of the Shiro bit, but it too is also milled. You know, more milling equals more cost, more detail equals sexier, equals, you know, you're remortgaging your house to get one of these. Being that these are now 13, this is number 13, but I'd say, I think 15, you know, there might be another show in a week here or two, so maybe 20 of these out in the world. They're going to be very expensive, probably for the next 12 months. Right now, I believe market is about, in the US, they're trading at between $4,000 and $4,500 US. And that seems to be about right for what it is, because I believe table cost on these actually went up compared to the magnetic and the turtle. So table cost is up, and there might be a correlating kind of bump of a few $100 compared to a standard turtle, which is like, you know, high threes right now, US. Right now, and that could change. But really, really cool. In terms of the milling, there's tons of micro milling all over the lock bar, as we can kind of see, and that pattern is found throughout. You can kind of see it just connects really nicely. You can see under the clip here, the carbon has a swirl in it. It goes underneath the pocket clip, and I can actually kind of see as I look down here. There's a bunch of milling actually under that clip, which I can't show because my camera is not suitable for the task. But lots of detail on this, and if you were to take it apart, back to the hardware discussion, you need a tool for this. You need the little tool up here, right? Which is cool. It's not a big deal, but you do need it. Don't use a screwdriver because it's very expensive, and yet some people are still doing it. So I don't get it sometimes. But people are taking them apart and marring up the hardware, and it is titanium, so it's not there's a lot more materials that are harder than it, and just don't do that. So get a tool, not a big deal. It looks like this. There you go, and you can take it apart. Also very, very well made, beautiful, beautiful addition to have in your office or wherever you store your knives. Let's go over some of the actual features of the blade. So once again, we're matching the jimping to the backspacer, which is kind of a common theme nowadays, and I believe the jimping and the backspacer are identical to the F95T CD in terms of the pattern, but because I have it right here, why not? Take a look. There is the backspacer of that one. I believe it's the same. It looks damn near the same, and the actual jimping looks to be identical as well. So there you go. Same blade width, I think I mentioned that already. It's it feels like it's 3 mil. Looks 3 mil. The blade itself, we've got a beautiful polished flat up top, which should look gorgeous. Right, so on that, you've got the CD logo, custom division, or cash deprived, as I call it, which looks great. It's Vanax, which is not a very common steel for the custom divisions. So you get that Vanax 37 etched on the blade as well, which looks phenomenal. I think Vanax is one of the sexiest steels out there. I don't know why, I just think it's super cool. Highly, highly corrosion resistant steel. A lot of dive knives are made of that. Fun fact. We've got a back spacer, and when I'm filming this, I don't actually have a spec sheet to look at what this knife is, or I haven't seen anything on it, so I'm kind of going off of my feel. So I apologize in advance if I mess this up, but to me the back spacer looks like a polished stonewash, titanium, 3D milled, of course, because it's lightweight, given that it's 3.8 ounces on my scale, or 3.7 I think is what I looked at earlier. It's very light, so I'm assuming that's titanium, but it's got a polish on it, very similar to the, what was that F3 that just came out a few months back? They had a stonewash polish. It looked really, really good on the back spacer. I can see the picture of the Aram, I think that's what it was called. Looked great. Same kind of blue as well. Great, great knife. We have, obviously, on the back spacer, we've got a spot for your lanyard, if you do want to run one with this knife. You know, it looks terrific. And I always show this, or at least I have been showing this, my Stellar, in terms of, you know, sometimes some people don't really like the overall aesthetic of the Stellar because that lanyard hole is see-through. So it kind of just pokes out and you see whatever's behind it. In this case, a gorgeous knife. Ooh. But anyway, it you know, can be a bit of an eyesore. I've seen that on a few different channels mentioning this, so it's not just me. But personally, I think it looks terrific. So, you know, on this, they make it a little more simple, and they built that right into the back spacer. Little lanyard hole, so from the front you can kind of access it. But from the side, it's not a complete eyesore. It's not hideous, which is super cool. Beautiful pocket clip, which is in line with all of their other designs. And I'll grab that turtle again and show this. Same kind of pattern, right? You kind of got the milling down here and that line, which looks beautiful. The milling on this matches the pattern of the turtle, whereas the milling on this kind of matches the overall theme of the rest of the knife. In fact, it's even taken up one more notch, I'd say. Which is just unbelievable. It's such a... I really truly believe this F95NL is going to be a highly desirable knife. One, because it's got Vanax, which is rare. And two, just these little hosts of improvements in the, you know, the hardware is a huge bonus. The concave front handle, which you notice right away, and then the overall thickness of the F95, it's all added to a knife that is traditionally very slim lately. And so this kind of just feels, it feels like it's the right size, which is kind of weird, because lately the F95s just haven't, they've just felt thin. So anyway, let's do some comparisons. I know I've got a handful of them here, so figured let's just zoom this guy out just a smudge, and we'll do some comparisons while this is filming away. So we've seen before our gorgeous F95NL, and I'm starting with that piece because it is an inlay, and let's be honest, how sexy is that knife? They look so good together. This pair is, you know, king and queen. This is peanut butter and jelly. This is just, it looks right. So that NL, it's just a piece of art. So we'll do that. I've already shown you the turtle, which I'll put at the top here. Same knife, same size dimensionally, so it shouldn't appear any crazy size difference there, but you never know. I have been known to make complete glaring mistakes on this channel, which I apologize for, but at the same time, you know what? It's free. It's YouTube, man. So there you go. There's your 95. I will grab my large 95 custom division. This is an old NL, which I'm looking at right now is filthy on the blade from my fingerprints, and I apologize. I have done a video on this knife. Super, super cool. But this is like your OG F95 CD. bigger, you know, just dimensionally the same, but just thicker, bigger, material-wise. They just feel a little more robust. And this is a throwback to the first, you know, 400 knives Shiro did in the custom division. And these aren't even individually numbered. They're individually numbered or etched internally, but they're not one of, etc. So which is, it's just kind of rare. So I will show that. Put this guy away. We've got our F95, our F5 Silk Slim. Probably my favorite custom division F95 in the collection right now, which this NL, I'll be honest, this one is giving it a run for its money, because it's modern, it has all the cool features, and it's ticking all the boxes. It honestly is. So there's a Silk Slim, super cool F95 knife, one of my faves. We've got our Stellar Sprint Run, which we will have seen by now, I assume. All over the channel, if you've followed me for a little while, you will have seen that knife. I would hope, anyway, on a few occasions. We have a Mini Quantum, which I believe I've shown a few times, but it's beside me. So may as well start showing the Mini Quantum a little bit more. Also, probably my favorite custom division knife they make in terms of overall fit, finish, layout, design. Just an unbelievable knife. Everybody and their dog needs a Mini Quantum because it's just so cool. And I definitely love it. But in terms of other high-end pieces, you know, we've got a couple other ones we'll float around here. We've seen the Molten Overkill a number of times. I've had a number of them go through the site. People love that knife. Magna Cut for the first time that Shirogorov had in a special edition collab piece, which is super cool. We've got our Silk Slam, or not Silk, I've already said that, sorry, Sinkovich Bio as well, which is a nice one to size in hand. You can kind of see that one, which looks terrific. Also one of my faves. And then in terms of, you know, some knives that people probably know, I've got my Rosie here, my Oz Roosevelt, which should give you an idea of the size, which is a little stubbier, a little shorter. I've got my Grimsmill, I can do that one as well. Rask, which is another cool one. Love both of these guys. I've had these ones forever. And I think, do I want to do the Kami? I'll show a Kami, there we go. I feel like I'm just showing knives at this point, not talking about it, but you know what, this is half the fun. We're going through the collection together. I'm sure you're topping up the coffee or the beer, and you know, it's all good. So there's a host of knives. Hopefully that's pretty good. But in terms of this knife, let's take a look at it some more up close. Let's talk about it. Let's feel it in hand, and see what we're working with here. So this guy, it runs on Shirogorov's single row roller bearing system, which, if we've seen other Shirogorov knives, just think of it as you know, a needle bearing, right? So hot dogs on a roller, kind of in a circular pattern, right? Standard Shirogorov bearings are single row bearings and multi-row bearings. Single row bearings are basically bearings in a track, in a circle, that's it. Multi-row bearings, depending on the system and the size, they tend to be, you know, 2 to 3 bearings in a row in a line, or in Sinkovich's case, they look kind of like a triangular pattern. I call them Mickey Mouse style. But they're balls, you know, in a ray of a sun, in a circle pattern, which doesn't add a whole lot to the actual feel of the knife. It makes it float home a little bit better rather than drop shut, and it adds a lot of kind of side to side strength to the interface between the blade and the knife handle. So when you have those balls in a row, 1, 2, 3, and kind of in a sun pattern, well, logically, why don't you connect those balls together and make it a roller bearing? That's where the custom division, for the most part, kind of starts in the custom, or some of the special editions like the soft overkills and Moltens, etc. And they tend to kind of get into roller bearings. And from the roller bearings, they obviously have another version called double row roller bearings, which are primarily reserved for their full customs. And the action on those, depending on tuning, are very similar to roller bearings, but just they're a lot more money. A lot more. You know, if this is $4 or $5 grand, you know, you're 4 times the price. on some of those, on an F95 or titanium kind of setup. It's just crazy. P.S. If anyone has a titanium that wants it featured on the channel, let me know, because you won't get your knife back, because I will keep it forever. Just saying. Sorry, not sorry. F95s, as we know, are probably my favorite in the Shirogorov lineup. It's Shirogorov's Sebenza, and if we look at that, we look at the flipper tab, you can kind of see, you know, you've got a little built-in spot here for your finger to find a nice little spot to dump into that jimping on the tip here and fire that blade out. So I love that versus the Quantum design. And I'm just reaching, I don't know which one I'm going to grab, whatever one is here. If we look on the Quantum, you can see that flipper tab is built into the tip of the frame. You can get a nice long line, and some people love it because in theory the tab's a little shorter, but you find the frame, you find the tab, right? You go as far forward as you can and you're on the tab. Some people love that design. But it's kind of interesting to me how on the Neon, on the smallers, they maintain that F95 design. They don't do like a little Neon, like a Quantum tab on here, right? So I like my finger kind of falling into a spot up top. Easy to find, it's definitely easy enough to find, and I dig it. So on this guy, it's an F95, I love that spot, I love the action, I love finding it, and boom, you fire it out, super smooth, feels unbelievable. This particular one is, I believe they're now coming with like a waxier kind of product on the bearings, so it feels slow, it feels very slow. And the action has not broken in at all on this compared to my other turtle, which is, I believe, on more of an oil. So I saw a fellow Canadian, Fab Blades, if you've heard of him. I'm sure you're watching this, you've heard of him. I believe he's taken his apart and swapped it for nano oil, and boy does it look so good. I don't know if that's the direction this knife will be going. I don't see myself opening this up. I don't think I have the skills to do it without hurting myself or the knife. That's kind of funny. But yeah, it's more of a waxy action to start, but I've heard from a few buddies they kind of work in, and it's already starting to feel a little bit, yeah, it's already starting to work itself in. So it just needs to break in, which is awesome. In terms of that pocket clip I mentioned earlier, so it actually takes all the pressure of your hand and transfers it onto the frame versus the lock bar, which is awesome. I love that, and it's always something that I encourage people when they're flipping their first Shiro. Just put your hand on top of the clip on the back, and you're not going to have any issues, because when you put the weight onto the clip, all of that pressure goes away from the lock bar. So it comes out every time beautifully smooth. And that's kind of found across basically the entire line now on the F95s and Quantums. That gorgeous micro milling gets even more detailed as we go into the into this zone down here. It's even finer. It's just gorgeous. I love how we have this little cutout here. You can kind of look into the blade. If this blade was Damasteel, it would just be a nice little Easter egg spot to peep in. Take a look. But you can see the blade through there, which is a nice, that might make for a nice little macro shot for Instagram. I may have to take that photo. We've got an over travel stop / lock bar insert. I believe it's stainless steel. And I always like to say, just remember that this material on here is chosen to represent kind of a magic balancing point between the two materials of a titanium frame and the Vanax or M390 or S90V or whatever steel you want. And by choosing that material, you can tune the wear, you can replace that as well as it wears out over time, but more than anything, you prevent lock stick. Okay, lock stick is where this gets all, think of it as gouging into the grind, into the angle, and getting stuck, and it's just not ideal. You can see down here the lock bar insert is screwed in from the inside, and you can see right above my little finger here, there's a little piece of metal that hangs down, and that's the over travel stop, so that you can't push this lock bar over travel, and it stops it. Fun fact. But I just can't get over how good this hardware is finished and looks. Like, I was not expecting this. And, you know, I'd seen pictures of it, and I had taken a look at this, and I said, okay, yeah, there's definitely a change on the hardware, but I didn't realize it was so drastic. And they're now, you know, not only just polishing the sides as well, but the tops. It just looks so incredibly good. We still have the custom division written on the blade, and Vanax obviously on the other side. I would have liked to seen Shirogorov right on the handle down here, like they've done on some of the other ones, or even put it up on top here like they did, I believe it was on the F5. Where is that? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, above the pivot. You know, that would be pretty cool in this case, but they didn't do that. And, you know, the CD has to be on the blade. That's like its M badge for BMW, for example. So I get it, but if you're going to use it, it's going to eventually come off as it is in the cutting pattern. We've got a mirror polished blade as well on the bottom, on the edge, which is super cool. And even mirror polished blades, I've been finding, like, you put a piece of dust on it now and you notice it, which is not ideal. But it's cool. When it's new, it's, you know, pre-fingerprints, it looks real nice. Speaking of which, I'm getting fingerprints all over this, and I apologize. This one was really, really exciting to bring this one in, honest to God. I really was looking forward to seeing this and getting it in hand, and I'd heard so much. And being in Canada, we're always, you know, another week or two behind the US or the Russian guys getting the same knife. So it's sometimes you see what everyone's all excited about, and you get a little too excited, and then before you know it, you see what all the hype is about, and you go, yep, I get it. In terms of the flipper tab itself, feels good. But what I want to draw your attention to is look. The tolerances on that tab in the frame. It's just at a different level. No one's doing it this tight. That's what she said. There's no room for that. I don't, like, sometimes I look at this and I go, how is that not hitting something? It's just perfectly engineered. Speaking of perfectly engineered, we've got excellent centering. And so much so, they've added a little emphasis on that backspacer. So it's like, oh, by the way, it has to be centered. And then I believe, did they do any work underneath the backspacer? Usually there's some centering work done. Or like a little channel cut out. I'll have to take a look inside with my light. I haven't even looked inside this thing already. You're getting the first taste of it right now. Yes, there is. It looks like it's more so in the frame that it's kind of squished together than pinned. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's right on the tip there. It says number 13. I don't think the light's going to show that. So, no, sometimes the backspacer hangs down. That's what I was kind of trying to get at. And they do some machining work to kind of, you know, emphasize the centering. But no, don't have to deal with that in this case. We do, however, I believe it's a floating. Yep. Hopefully we can see some gaps start to form here as I move the knife around. Just some slivers should poke besides it because it is floating, which is cool. But looking inside, man, it's completely milled out and skeletonized like crazy, which is awesome. You would kind of expect that. Being the weight that it is, like it's a 4-inch blade at less than 4 ounces, it's a very, very light blade. Here you can see the milling there. You can see the serial number stamped underneath. Backspacer there, number 13. It should be reflecting. If you're in 4K, I assume you should see that. But yeah, all the handles milled out, skeletonized, very lightweight, very well done. The inside of this is just a work of art, and I would love to see more of this. I'm not going to personally take this one apart, but I would love to see this opened up. And I think there may be a video on that already, because I'd heard about it. So that would be kind of cool to see. But otherwise, the milling just... this is... I'm like... You're experiencing this knife for the first time with me. I'm right now fanboying as well, looking at it, because I'm looking at it the first time and trying to figure out what it is, what it isn't, what do I like about it, what do I not like about it. And so far, it's just like all green lights. I'm looking at here the design of the handle. Traditionally, Shiro will do some design work on the handle, okay, up here. And then this little bevel that they cut here, it tends to be just like plain or stonewash or blasted or whatever. But here, it's milled. And it's micro milled to the point where I don't even know if the camera is going to see this, but you can see all the lines down here. It just looks ridiculous in a good way. The lock bar itself, I always like to show this, but as I roll the knife towards you, you'll see how the lock bar's here. It's elevated compared to the other side of the frame, so it's asymmetrical. And that's so your finger can find that, right? When you're rolling it across, it finds it so well and so easily the first time. It's just so comfortable and super easy. Like, I love that feature so much. And this is why the F95 to me is like mom's spaghetti. It just feels so good and natural, and it's home, you know? Gorgeous piece. Yeah. I'm just trying to see some of the other detail lines here. You can see the millings. Does the milling change here? It appears it does. Yeah, it does. Back up here, you can kind of see the pattern change around the exterior. It goes from like these lines that are kind of horizontal top to bottom, and then it changes into more of a left to right pattern. Almost like it's following like that's cool. Unbelievable, man. Can you see that? Oh. Unbelievable. Beautiful lines as well. And this is the one thing you notice, right? So I've talked about the pattern down here, right? So it's how micro milled, but it's the same thing with the pattern up here. They don't always mill that. It's usually just kind of a blasted pattern. But you see it once again. Just... And I almost see some light, very ever so light bronze kind of pop through the anodizing as well. In certain spots, there's no wear on this knife, so it's definitely some design elements that are kind of coming through, which just look terrific. And I'm hoping I'm doing a good job here of showing you guys all the different angles, because there's going to be somebody who's going to want to see a very particular angle of this, and I'm trying to move it, trying to roll it, trying to show all the different, you know, how everything, just so you can kind of get an idea of what it's like in hand. You're seeing, you know, they're really starting to do this a lot more too on the frame, kind of, I don't know what the technical term would be, but like squish in the edges. That's starting to be a thing. And it looks good, you know, covers off a bit of a dead spot. You know, one thing that I'm looking at here from a design perspective, I'm just scratching my head, and I don't know if they've done this on the turtle. I'm going to take a look at that. Where did I just put it? I'll find it here in a sec, but I'm noticing a gap in the top here. In front of the backspacer, you can see almost like a track from the squeeze-in point down. It kind of falls down behind there. I wonder if the blade ends up in between that. No, I don't think so. So why do you make it so that you lose physical dimension here? Like there's a spot there. It's edgy, it looks cool, but why wouldn't you fill that with the backspacer and bring that all the way up? Or have those lines up top and kind of make it a little more filled in and full? That's peculiar. I want to see if that's the same on the turtle, which I appear to have put down somewhere, and I don't even know where it is, so now's a great time to figure that out on the camera. No, it might be the same. Might be the same. Maybe I just never noticed that. It is. Huh. See, this is why I shouldn't film my first impressions on something when I haven't actually looked at it, but that's cool. That's a nice little detail that I never really noticed. You know, it's like on the RJ Martins when they have a little bit of a gap in front of the backspacer. Just little things you don't really pay attention to, but when you sit here and look at it for 35 minutes, These details just somehow pop out. Super cool. Love it. All the micro milling around the clip with my sticky, sweaty fingers. So I'll have to clean this. Yeah, it's just a gorgeous knife. Honest to God, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous example of an F95. I guess we'll wrap things up here, but it's all of the modern features you'd expect in an old design as the F95, right? You've got roller bearings, check. You've got the 95mm blade with the polished flats, check. You got this custom division logo. You've got a super sexy steel, check. And then you add in the features of the slim design, of kind of squishing the top in. You add the modern feature of the new finished hardware system. I don't know what they're calling this, like 3D milled captive pivot system. I don't know what they're calling it, captive CPS4, I think. Obviously, it is a captive pivot system, like I said, so there's a ball bearing under this cap that prevents that from spinning around. So it's kind of a blank. It's just a blank, but the real magic's down on the back. You're taking the hardware off the front and you're putting it all in the back for where you're actually using it, which is terrific. You're inverting the hardware inside the lock bar insert, and instead of it doing external, like this, see how that you get screwed in external on the F5, it's now done internally, which is awesome. And then it's the design elements like the small hardware on the clip. You're milling in a little spot so that your tool doesn't bump it. Like, you don't have to do that, but like, have I even mentioned that in this video? Look at that. There's a tiny little bump there, presumably so you don't scratch your pocket clip when you're disassembling from the back. Or the inlay is done underneath the clip versus stopping right here, right? Where you're moving, things in and out of your jeans, and you're arguably going to bump into that and it's going to pull that up. Well, let's extend it underneath the clip so that can't happen. It's brilliantly done. That is just so smart. Huh. And then the inlay is just, it's done at a level that's no different than the titanium. It's just incredible, and then it's perfectly imperfect, because they're all going to be unique and different. And as I roll this around, the color's changing, and it's blue, it's black, it's light, it's gray, it's dark, it's white. It's just so cool. And it's my favorite feature of this knife. It's the hardware cap, because that's just it looks unique, and I'm a Shirogorov whore, and I think it looks so good, and it just looks different. But the concave front scale and the pattern, how it changes, and when you move it around on both sides, you see that. I think that's the coolest part of this knife. And then you take that concaveness and you add it to the regular thickness of an F95, so now it feels more hefty. But you mill it out and machine it to the point where it's actually lighter than the old Turtle. It's like, what? How did you guys do this? So dimensionally it's the same, okay. It's titanium still, okay. It's not a Hattie, it's not a magnetic, it's not a carbon show, okay. So, and it's lighter than that? What? And it's Vanax. And it's titanium. Okay. How do you sexify this a little bit more? Technical word. I would love to see like the seashell pattern on the back of this, like the magnetic. If you put that back side to this, oh, you'll blow, it'll be immediately a $6,000 knife. It would be that collectible. So let's predict that. Can we make that knife? If Sergey's listening or anyone's listening, can we please make a titanium front scale? I don't know, maybe a tie Hattie, I'm just saying. With the seashell backside, I'm in. I'm in for two. One as a backup, and one to obsess over. But I think this is, I realistically, I know I say this, I realistically think this is my favorite F95 knife that I have in the collection. And it gives the Silk Slim a run for its money. Because you're taking the design I love, you're making it blue, which is awesome as well, blue and black, it's Batman-y. And then you're taking the Turtle, which is previously my favorite knife, taking that same pattern, putting it on this, lightening it up, adding a sexier steel than M398, putting a cool backspacer on it, putting new hardware on it. It's just so cool. So there you go. I think I've rambled for probably 45 minutes or 40 minutes now, so I should probably stop this before my camera literally turns and burns to the ground. I've got a meeting for work here in 10 minutes, and I'm going to jump into that. So guys, I appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate you taking a look at this knife and enjoying this knife for the first time that I've seen it. And I really appreciate you guys, honestly. Follow me on Instagram, guys, Bladezilla. And send me a message. Let's chat, you know, or TikTok. I've been throwing some shorts on there. I've been trying TikTok. I'm not much of a TikToker, but I'm trying. You know, or just send me a message on Instagram. Let's chat. Let's talk knives. Let's see what it's all about. Like, you know, first and foremost, yes, yeah, I sell some of this stuff on the side, but let's be honest, my passion's in the knife itself. Love this stuff. Love it from an engineering perspective. Love it from a materials perspective. And I love it from just a coolness factor of having some cool knives. So there you go. There is your F95NL CD, Custom Division number 13, right here, of 50 as they slowly start trickling these guys out. But right now we're probably sub 20. All right, guys. Appreciate you stopping by. Check out the site, and we'll talk soon. Peace.